back where we left off. Getting unlocked by Floyd Kickshaws and Snarkification and whatnot. Great, lovely. He's gonna go back and hide and give me the finger. Excuse me. From her top, from her spot atop the clock tower, the girl observed the growth of her familiar flat snark, a savior of the discarded. It was a vile, vulgar fairy tale monster who provided those abandoned by fate with a glimmer of hope before snatching it away. Alice had it under her control, but she was still keen to keep the snark from expressing its bad habits. After completing a lap around the park that had now reached the size of an entire town, the robin made its situation report. I can't believe this blue-colored robin with stars tattooed on the wing is giving her the journalistic integrity right here. It seemed Aoka was prioritizing the safety of the boy. Even if it resulted in wasting an entire day, choosing not to capitulate on the decision was very much like her.
青子のことだから時計代ごと私を焼き払いに来るかと思ったけど
The blue bird cheeped in response. Was it denying its master's portrait of Aoko, or agreeing that it was Aoko's style to do exactly that? An outsider might interpret its interjections either way.
退屈
The robin jumped at being addressed so unexpectedly. It chirped and flapped its wings like a flustered servant, frantic to say otherwise.
珍しく気があったわねいいわせっかくのゲームだしもう少しだけ盛り上げましょう
Calmly, she pulled out a small object from her pocket. It was a dark gray Easter egg, and emanating from inside it was the ticking of a clock. Wait, this ain't Easter. What the hell? The robin knew it to be a ploy kickshaw with a bad attitude far exceeding flat snarks, known to be among the best in one-on-one situations.
いってらっしゃい称える時間は20分に設定したわいつも通り控えめに壊れてきて
And together with the witch's breath, the egg filled with praise disappeared. Suddenly, a strong wind swept through the park. The words, "I could have killed them all by myself," floated through the air. It was the disappointment of something enormous that was visible to all, yet overlooked. Oh. Oh shit. Aoko and Sojiro continued their dash toward the boundaries separating the park from outside. The curio horde that stood in their way had reduced in number. The iron fence that separated the two from the outside world was just over 300 yards away. Fortunately, there were no particularly large buildings barring their path. If the Ferris wheel had stood in their way, that would have spelled the end, but thankfully it had yet to reach its full strength. The only things that appeared before them were weak oddities that could easily be handled by Aoko's simple magecraft.
これならなんとか
She would have said, "Make it to the fence," if only her lungs would allow it. Since Aoko was utilizing the ample mana filling the park, her tank of magical energy was nearly full. Moreover, the condition of her body's circuits was steadily improving. to the extent that she would be able to unleash at least one all-out onslaught. Oh shit, it's the same Easter egg as before. What is it gonna do? Until something unusual was hovering above her field of vision. It was locked on Sojiro, hovering 10 feet above him over to one side.
しずきくん、ちょっと。
ああ、さっきからついてきてる。
You don't say. Sojiro had seemingly noticed it before Aoko, hence his previous awkward glances toward the sky. In truth, it would have been stranger for him not to notice, as the thing was practically glued to him. In terms of its size, the floating object measured about 3 feet in diameter. Tiles covered its exterior, about which a multitude of spinning lights danced about.
卵かな。
Is that an egg? Sojiro asked, not really sure what to call it. You obviously know how it... Oh yeah, the Halloween Discord notification has been spooky as fuck. You forgot you swapped it? You know, come to think of it, let's see if I test it on the Discord. Streamer mode enabled. Let me try this. Let me try joining on my my burner server. Boom, 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 boom. You probably can't hear it, but it's like the same Discord notification sound. Whenever, unless you get like unless you're talking about a Discord ping. But I remember I heard like a familiar jing during like a Halloween, during October theme. I was like, what the hell? I thought it was pretty cool, but I can see why people just want that back to normal. Oh shit. How does one... Yeah, turn on streamer mode.
Tamago? Tamago って言ったら割れる卵。
So if the egg means it'll crack... Wait, hang on. So you telling me this egg could be a bomb? Damn. I didn't even know there was... Her bullets bounced off like it was made of rubber. That trait, the ability to deflect all outside interference, confirmed to Aoko that this thing was undoubtedly a ploy kick shot.
やっぱり外からのルールじゃ壊れないか。しずきくん、あれから絶対に目をそらさないで。いい。何があっても見続けること。視界の隅に入れとくだけでいいから。
Okay. Aoko picked up her pace as she barked orders. The Eggman, who sat on the wall, he would crack, just as the tale spoke of. Oh, you're talking about the story of Humpty Dumpty? Is that what you're trying to mention? Nothing anyone could do or say would cause him to fall, but the moment they stopped looking, he would tumble down and break into pieces.
いわく、王様の軍隊でも元に戻せない数の破片。
It was the Mother Goose poem, Humpty Dumpty. Yeah, that's what I figured. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall and so on and so forth. If Sojiro was its target, then the moment he averted his gaze, it would tumble and explode.
なあ、爆発するかどうかは知らないけど。
Either way, it was going to scatter something troublesome when it fell. Its oval shape, the keyhole adorning the front, and writing inscribed upon it, they all made her anxious. If it was an egg, that meant it was going to hatch at some point. Even if he continued to stare, once the time came for whatever was inside to come out, they would have even less ability to conserve their energy.
青崎、早すぎないか。あまり全力で走ると。
You'll what?
後のことは考えないで。いいからしずきくんは卵だけに集中して。
At this critical juncture, Breadman stepped out to join the egg and block their path.
邪魔！
The Breadmen were marching forth in a grand battalion. At her level of firepower, Aoko should have easily mowed them down, however.
肩焼きかこの。
If Snap failed to do the job, that meant it was time for her to put her crest to use. Draw. A formula-triggered bullet encased in a full winded jacket. Did I click? Oh, I thought I clicked quick save as a misclick. If her previous shots were the equivalent of a machine gun volley, then this was her artillery shot. Send in the artillery. The hard crust bread that had absorbed her snap without a dent scattered into thousands of tiny pieces at her jaw's torrent. The look on his face, he's like, is that even necessary? Of course, the destruction did not end with just the breadmen. What had once been a brick road was now thoroughly stripped of its pavement. The nearby stalls had been warped into twisted steel skeletons. It was a spectacle that made Sojiro question what the greater obstacle to their escape was: the wall of breadmen, or Aoko's ability to lay waste to things.
ちょっとなんで距離取るのよそこ。そばにいないと危ないじゃない。ほらもっとこっち。言っとくけど、あんたがあいつらに囲まれちゃったらアウトよ。私人質とか意味ないタイプだし、そもそも区別して撃つとかそういうのできないし。
This made a lot of sense to Sojiro. He had not fully appreciated the part about hostages, but he got the gist of it.
つまり、今はどこであろうと危険なのか。
Basically. You make one little mistake and you're going to be wandered off.
あんたね。
Offended though she was by his typical naive response, she could not help but be impressed. Sojiro was a straight arrow through and through. His eyes stayed firmly focused on the egg overhead, even amidst the chaos of the melee unfolding before him.
その分なら安心か。物分かりは悪いけど、一度言われたことはきっちり守るあたり、あなたのいいところよね。
Yeah, but that's, well, you're the one that, I mean, you're the one who composed that sort of thought for him. Oh well.
そんなことより青崎、俺の気のせいならいいんだけど、さっきのパン、硬くなかったか？
Yeah, damn, did they cook the bread and made it hard as a rock?
まあね、あいつら少しずつ強くなってきてるわ。大量生産が軌道に乗ったんで、今度はクオリティアップをテーマにしたのかも。しずきくんでもお察しの通り、ここからは手強くなっていく一方よ。あのパンたちでさえ個体差が出てきたみたいだし。考えたくないけど、そのうちジャム塗ったりレタス乗っけたり、果ては合体したりして。
So she was joking, her eyes were dead serious. Sojiro shuddered at the thought of the situation growing even more dire.
じゃあそのうちミラーハウスの人形ぐらいに怖くなるのかあいつら。
Yes.
間違いなくね。そこまでレアなパンになったら私も自分だけで手一杯になる。ところでしずきくん、ああいうのと喧嘩できる？
I mean, he took out a puppet with a fire extinguisher. Surely you could do something else, right? Oh, of course you're gonna make that face. Sojiro shook his head, a look of complete aversion upon his face.
でしょ？なら急ぎましょう。いろいろ余裕ないんだから。
Oh my god. That's insane. Aoko took a quick deep breath, then began to sprint once again. Far in the distance, through the fog, the iron fence waited, 300 paces away. As long as nothing happened, they would make it there in one piece. Sojiro followed after Aoko, holding on to that all too convenient hope. But hope was something ever fleeting. In fact, it lasted not even 300 yards. The edge of the amusement park may well have been the edge of the world. Oh. Dozens of undulating horizons could be seen. What the shit? Crowding the sky like a giant cloud or a thick curtain, or perhaps groaning lips. It was the end of the road, the outer limit of an outrageous and fantastical realm. And yet, Aoko found it to be much like the last page of an enormous picture book. So basically, what you're saying is the boundary field or bounded field or whatever you call it. I think that's what Alice freaking did. You basically trapped the two. The sight turned her mind blank. Well, this is about as bad as it gets, she thought. The snark, this island of despair, had at last brought Aoko to her knees as she stared at the swelling border. The park indeed had an end. Even now, as Aoko and Sojiro had expected, a fence divided the amusement park from the residential area neighboring it. It had both doubled in height and been made sturdier, another hurdle she had foreseen before even laying eyes on it. Expecting it to have been snarkified, Aoko had come prepared to demolish an obstacle or two. But this construction before her went far beyond a mere wall. It was an ocean that separated the underworld from the mortal one. The iron fence was like a restless, surging sea. One or two walls could easily be toppled. Even 10 or 20 could be dealt with one way or another. Between the power left in her body and that which filled the park, putting on a brave front was within her power. She could fully mobilize her circuits in her crest to the point of burnout and a last-ditch effort, like some reenactment of the parting of the Red Sea.
でも、それで終わり。
Even if a path could be opened, she would not have the energy left to walk it. And it was obvious that what would become of her afterward. The residents would hardly forgive her for wreaking such havoc around their park. Like ants drawn to honey, they would swarm the helpless girl and tear her to pieces. Despondent and exhausted, she felt the faint sting of remorse. Escaping the park, looking back on how they had gotten here, Aoko recognized that her choices had been her undoing. Under the golden full moon, beams of steel bent and merged like wire-frame sculptures. Beams of steel. Why am I getting this this fucking brain rotted meme of the galvanized steel beams or some bullshit. It was only a matter of time before the amusement park itself became one colossal monster. The horde of familiars gathered in the plaza where Alice was had formed an impenetrable blockade around her. Just above the head of the boy, beside her, the whispering egg, called Scratch Dumpty, continued to shuffle what appeared on its surface.
青崎
Well, what is Sojourner gonna say this time?
しずきくん。
The boy's voice snapped Aoko out of her trance, if only for a moment. The stark reality of the situation quickly dawned on the novice mage. The sheer hopelessness of it all as it ripped out and snatched away any will she had to resist.
ゲートに行こう。ここはどうしようもないけど、入り口ならもうちょっとマシだろ。
Gate. Oh god. I can't even stand that word.
フラットスナークだっけ？こいつにもルールがあるって言ったじゃないか。なら、これは役割の問題だ。初めから鉄柵は通れない壁だけど、ゲートなら出入り口として機能しているかもしれない。
Sojiro had not given in to panic. Aoko found herself honestly admiring Sojiro's ability to analyze Snark's characteristics, given the circumstances. Now calm, she steeled her resolve.
そうね。確かに門はあると思う。けど、たどり着くのは難しいわ。一番弱かった焼きたてパンですら、今はもうあれだもの。広場や入り口には、もっと上等なのがたむろしてるだろうし、門だって、あの観覧車以上の怪物かもしれない。確か、大きなキッツィちゃんだったでしょ、正門って。
青崎はゲートには行かないのか。
まあね。それよりこっちの方が現実的だし。
There's a better chance. Is that so?
Mm.
It's like, what? Aoko took another glance at the undulating iron fences. It was too late to achieve their goal of making it out alive. In that case, she decided to prioritize the other promise she had made.
今からこの鉄柵を壊すから、あなたはそこから外に出て。それで、私の役割はおしまいよ。
So her words were few, her tone told the whole story. She was telling him to escape by himself.
信じられない。こんなの青崎だけじゃ壊せないだろ。
私だけならね。でも、今はこの遊園地が味方してる。燃料がこれだけあるんだから、私は重心になるだけでいいんだし。一発でかいのお見舞いしてやるわ。ま、それでも一回が限度だから、穴を開けたら、あんたには全力で走り抜けてもらうしかないけど。
Gotta go fast. She would carve a path through this iron sea of fences, gambling on one final effort. A great incantation to launch the biggest projectile she could manage. As an outsider, Sojiro could not even begin to imagine just how much of a burden this would be for her. All he could imagine was a hazy vision of Aoko being left behind in this park. What would happen to her? Would that girl in black come to save her? Cruel as it was to imagine, he knew she would not. After Aoko had exhausted her very best in order to save him, that girl would not stay her hand. The only way Alice would let Aoko off the hook was if Aoko killed Sojiro as payment. And so...
20メートルぐらい離れてて。 準備に手間取るけど、その卵の表面が茹で上がるまでには終わらせるから。
It went without saying that this was the only path.
待ってくれ。俺を逃がすって言うけど、それに意味はあるのか、青崎。
ないけど、外に出られたところでアリスから逃げ切れるとは思えないし。
And here I thought we can just make a decoy of him.
けど、これぐらいは最後の意地よ。守るって言ったんだから、できるところまでやらないと。
Surprised by her seemingly moral stance, Sojiro saw Aoko in a new light. Ah, but of course, Sojiro realized that she was not fighting for his sake, but for the sake of her pride.
うん、そうだったな。けど、それなら俺だけ逃がすのはらしくないぞ。
何よ、いいから離れてて。
Yeah, enough yapping. Aoko eased off just a bit. She recalled how an hour ago he had gotten the better of her.
青崎、まだ意地を張れるんなら他のことをやろう。
Some other way.
このお化けみたいな鉄柵を壊せるなら他に壊すべきものがあるはずだ。
ないわよ。悪いけど、私は目に見えるものしか壊せないの。最後まで形のない希望にすがるとか考えるのも寒気がする。
That's so.
いい？今はフラットスナークなんかより、この壁を壊してあんたを足抜けさせるのが私の現実。私に負える最大限の責任って。
逃げるのか。
So what you're saying is going to run for this responsibility as well? Aoko was just about to turn her back on him when Sojiro clutched her hand. Oh shit, now she's mad. His words caused something inside of her to boil with rage. It was as though someone had set her heart on fire. But Sojiro is an arsonist confirmed. He inflamed her emotions. The surprise that pricked open her true feelings and the disappointment she felt toward herself thawed her frozen limbs.
誰が逃げるのはそっちで、逃がしてあげるのはこっちだって言うのよ。甘く見ないで。いざとなったら遊園地ごと爆破してみせるわ。
I mean, you blowed up a building that is considered a house of mirrors, so I'm not surprised.
そうか。なら、ここで俺を逃がすのは無駄だな。その気迫は本命のために取っておこう。それまでは俺も手伝うから。
は？手伝う？それこそ無駄な気遣いよ。あったまきた。いいから逃げろバカ。だいたい走り詰めで息も絶え絶えなやつなんか使えないわよ。
そりゃいい加減ヘトヘトだけど、そういう青崎なんか疲れ以上に傷の方が痛んでるだろ。
Alright. Not to mention the injury to her back that Aoko had nearly forgotten about. Yeah, it's almost like you shrugged off the ass beating. Even now, she couldn't ignore the pain that the automaton had inflicted on her spine. With iron will, she'd managed to push it out of her mind. Mostly.
ほら、魔術とか抜きにすればまだ俺の方がマシじゃないか。入り口までおぶっていくことぐらいならなんとか。
できないことは口にしないで。もういいから言って。慣れているもの、私は。でもあなたは違う。こういうの初めてでしょ。だからいいの。
The fact that they were a team, the fact that she would still have to kill him after all of this, none of the irony was lost on her as she said these words. It didn't matter anymore. Still, Sojiro didn't let go of her hand. He gripped it even harder. His expression was the same as ever, Aoko frowned, trying to figure out if he was upset with her.
確かにこういうのは初めてだ。けど山じゃ危険な目ぐらい合ってる。鹿に襲われたことだってあるんだぞ、俺は。
As a city girl, she had no idea what it meant to be attacked by a deer, but his determination was apparent enough. Obviously, you never went to camp, and true. Looking back on it now, he had maintained his composure through it all. A normal person would barely be able to talk through such panic. Perhaps growing up deep in the mountains, far from civilization, had taught him how to stay calm in the face of so much.
だから信じてくれ。少しでいいから。
He spoke his plain, unadulterated feelings and released his hand. There was no lie in him. In fact, he was too honest, so much that she found it hard to believe him. Sojiro had no reason to go that far. As it stood, Aoko had no future. After confessing this and telling him to escape, why did this boy still offer to help a person like her?
わからない。どうしてそこまでするの？私に付き合えばあなたは死ぬのよ。これが最後だからちゃんと考えてよね。あなたはここで逃げるべきよ。
それはわかるよ。でも行かない。
You mean you're not going anywhere? Wait, so do you have a backup plan then? Sojiro answered immediately, realizing that Aoko was looking for his reason. This level of insight in Sojiro demanded a round of applause.
そうすると青崎が死んでしまいそうだ。
Oh yeah, true. If you helped him escape, that means you're going to be part of blame and you'll get your ass beat by her. His words were as irrational as always.
だからどうしてそこまでするのよ、あんたは。
What if he likes you? No, I'm just kidding. She was yelling out of frustration. After thinking for a moment, Sojiro
そ
replied,
りゃ君が好きだからだろ。
Oh, god damn it. Simple and to the point. Oh my god. His face seemed to ask why she would even question himself. Would you look at that? There was a pause, no more than 2 seconds. His surprise attack had stopped Aoko in her tracks. Alice was not the only one who had an ace up her sleeve. That line reached deeper even than Flat Snark could ever hope to. All Aoko could respond with was an expression of pure shock. It was a simple, stubborn reason, the strongest kind on Earth. Strongest kind on Earth. Okay. Sojiro Shizuki was indeed incomprehensible. To be able to work unconditionally with someone who was trying to kill him. But she felt as though she'd finally grasped a sliver of his true nature. Tobimaru and the others' assessment of him was correct, as vexing as it was to her to admit.
バカね。私はあなたのこと嫌いなのに。
He laughed at her sour grumbling. At this point, he was used to her insults. Their clash of wills ended here. Aoko's blood ran hot from her blazing heart. If he was going to make a face like that, all she could do was try to think of a way to get them both home.
私だって逃げっぱなしは性に合わないし。いいわよ。最後まで粘ってみる。それにしずきくんが付き合ってくれるなら、何かの役には立つでしょ。
Though her tone had lightened, there was still hesitation in her eyes. It was only natural. Aoko had not even a clue as to how to begin to fight the snark. If only she had been just a bit more skilled, or had trained just a bit more, there might have been some way to look for it.
あれながら情けない。せめて正体を暴く手がかりでもあればいいんだけど。
Unconsciously, she let her apprehensions show. Sniveling was pointless. Pointless. She would just have to figure it out by herself, but...
なんだ、正体さえ分かればいいのか?
You're gonna give her that, like, just like, huh? Aoko gave him a look, as if to ask what that was supposed to mean.
いや、だからおかしなものはどれかってことだろ?
Oh, well, she did. Sojiro also made a face that suggested she should have brought it up sooner.
わかるのあんた。
多分、いや、結構前から気になっていたんだけど。
Sojiro whispered in her ear quietly, so as not to be overheard. It was certainly unexpected, but then again, equally obvious. After he explained the mistake, she knew right away that he was correct. At last, she had an inkling of Flat Snark's original form. Namely... It was... Wait, what? What's going on? She had an inkling of Flat Snark's original form, namely what? Like, I thought it was going to go in the next chapter. They strategized for 10 minutes. After deliberating the Snark's true form and figuring out a plan of attack, the two exchanged nods in acceptance of their roles.
それじゃあ、ここからは別行動ね。でも、ミラーハウスの時みたいなのは勘弁してよ。この作戦の肝はあなたなんだから。開始1分でドジったら、本当に打つ手なしだからね。
A blunder in the House of Mirrors? I mean, he didn't even know that... He didn't even know that the automaton turned into a freaking six-legged spider. Or six-legged spider, or whatever the fuck you can call it for automata. I think it was gunning for Aoko, like, all the way down to the basement anyway. It was not like it was going to aim for Sojiro. Is that even really a blunder? Now you're making me want to go back and reread this shit, but I don't want, but I can't be bothered to. Though she jabbed him for his previous failure as a decoy, her voice was bright. Aoko's original vigor had returned to her at Sojiro's discovery of the truth. Meanwhile, Sojiro was also getting serious in his own way. He took Aoko's warning to heart.
ならいいけど、いい？さっきと立場は反対よ。失敗したら死ぬのは私じゃなくてそっち。もうフォローに回れないから、できるだけ慎重にね。
The roles positions are reversed. Aoko's going to be the decoy. Oh
分か
god.
ってる。今更ながら、やっぱりさっき逃がしてもらえばよかったと思うぐらい慎重だ。
Sojiro nodded, telling her to leave it to him. Though he made it sound like he was holding a grudge, it seemed to him to be the only way of showing her his resolve. Aoko let out a sigh of defeat. Once more, she couldn't figure him out.
ほんと、大バカなんだか大物なんだか。
Why not both?
でも任せた。期待してるわ、しずきくん。
Yep, sure. She had wanted to say that she believed in him, but apparently that was too embarrassing for her. Aoko turned away from Sojiro and began to run. She had begun to think that maybe this change of pace was not so bad after all. Oh, now we're back to this interesting little background here. And so ended the intermission. The young cast members were handed their new lines. Whatever happened next, the Night of Witches had, at long last, entered its climax. She was filled with foreboding at the Robins' report. Apparently, they had gone in opposite directions. The park's residents had set off after the boy witness, and it would take them mere minutes to capture him, so the birds said.
どういうこと？追いかけているのは本当に彼？青子が変装しているのではなく。
The robin flapped its wings, chirping away any doubt. It had seen them with its own two eyes. Aoko was heading for the plaza while the cocky brat was making a run for the roller coaster.
青子が彼を見捨てたですって。そんな簡単なことならいいけど。ダンプティは彼に張り付いているの？
The robin nodded enthusiastically. It didn't know about the other birds, but with its superior night vision, it had seen that sucker clearly because he had moved to a high point.
ダンプティはなんて？最後まで歌わせろ。こんな褒め殺したい間抜けはまたとない。ですって。
Asinine. Scratch Dumpty was a ticking time bomb that would drop and detonate the moment its target averted his gaze. That is, as long as his target continued to observe him. In a way, he was a gentlemanly ploy kickshaw, though Alice wished he would forego such niceties when in battle.
そうね。視線を切らないだけではダンプティからは逃げられない。表面の詩が完成すれば扉が開く。彼がどこまで逃げようと、あと少しでダンプティがしまってくれるわ。
Until the park, or rather the snark, was destroyed, Sojiro would not be able to escape, which meant the larger concern was Aoko. Aoko had promised to protect the boy, which begged the question, where was she running to?
ここにいる限り、青子の動向はつかめない。
Alice looked out over the park, ignoring the robin's attempt to get her attention with its plumage. The bird is like, hey, are you listening? Flat Snark had nearly reached its full size. I love how this little section of the ride right here is called Flying Pirates. Itsy Wheel, Flying Pirates. It was a different breed of beast compared to the other cheap ploys. To her, it was one of her three most irreplaceable and precious familiars.
そうね。任せたわスナーク。青子が諦めない以上、あなたも手は抜かないで。
Alice remained where she was. With the same historical merit as the troll under the bridge and the poison-clawed reptile, Flat Snark was one of Alice's ultimate ploys. She was placing her trust in its reputation and ability.
でも忘れないで。これはゲームよ。
This is a game.
勝敗がついたのなら、私のところに帰ってきて。
No words. The drifting fog ignored its master's words. Look how sky's all green. Actually, no, it's not green. It's just the lighting of the Ferris wheel. It was the one thing that Alice had misread. Flat Snark was a king, even among the other ploys, of terrible, vulgar antics. Death to the defeated, gruesome tragedy to the vanquished. It found no pleasure unless it brought about dramatic ruination of life and wealth. Oh, now it's like a big blank. The fog billowed like wicked laughter. After all, only a king had the right to decide the fate of the vanquished, and the Snark's greed could not be contained. Thus, it hadn't even the slightest intent to play fair, despite its master's orders. Oh, what's going on over here now? Over 100 feet high. One careful step at a time, the figure made its way gingerly up the track, which stretched into the heart of the amusement park. Is this dude climbing on the top of the roller coaster tracks? Oh shit. He stayed his beating chest and the pounding of his breath. Even tiny movements were an obstacle to his progress. Amazingly, the one making this pale-faced advance higher and higher was Sojiro Shizuki. Far below, he saw that a horde of bread creatures had congregated by the roller coaster platform. Yeah, look at that view. As they bustled this way and that, their numbers continued to increase by the minute, seemingly cheering on Sojiro with raised arms as he made his ascent. Or rather, they jeered as if beckoning him to come down.
助かった。あれ、高いところは苦手なんだ。
Of course, neither did Sojiro, but his current state was the lesser of two evils. Lesser. Oh boy. What a term. The only thing that followed him now was the floating egg. After heaving a huge sigh, Sojiro bent forward a bit and climbed the track that inclined towards the heavens. 150 feet now. If this were a skyscraper, he would be on the 16th floor. Oh shit. A strong gust of wind whipped through his hair. Humans had an instinctual fear of heights. In particular, a place like this, which called forth visions of falling to one's death, would cause a person's knees to tremble against their will. It was an instinct that forewarned death, urging its master to return to the safety of the ground. It was a reasonable reaction. Climbing the roller coaster tracks went beyond funny stories and into the realm of fantasy. The strong winds and change in air pressure were a hindrance. His instincts screamed at him to stop, causing his limbs to go numb, his muscles to go limp, and his mind to race. Even if he had been tied to a lifeline, a mere 15 feet of climbing would still have caused his thoughts to freeze out of sheer terror. Yeah. I know he's climbing on a roller coaster, but it does seem like he would be climbing on, like, probably a big-ass skyscraper in a downtown. I'm sitting here and I'm like, wow, what a metaphor. And it would only get worse from here. Exponentially so. Every foot forward increased the load on both his mind and his body by another degree.
よし。頂上まであと少し。
The burden on his mind, notwithstanding, he carefully measured the toll on his body with every step. His legs, which had carried him running this far, threatened to buckle the moment he let down his guard. This fatigue was likely why Aoko had stressed that Sojiro's role was more dangerous than hers.
待てよ。逆を言うと、疲れてなければなんとかなると思ってたんだよな、青崎は。
Sojiro laughed as he stared at the floating egg. He reflected on the course of events that had led to this absurd situation. Not even 10 minutes ago, they had been engaged in conversation.
じゃあ次ね。正体が分かった以上、あとはどう壊すかを話し合いましょう。
Sojiro felt a shudder travel down his spine at Aoko's smug grin. In hindsight, Aoko had been more than happy at this point to make him do something absurd.
どう壊すかって、それなら
Sojiro wondered aloud. From what he'd seen, Aoko had enough firepower to tear clean through the fence. He refrained from speculating about Flasnar's true form because he felt there was nothing they could do about it, even if they knew. But that had changed. For Aoko, the impossible was quite literally within her grasp.
そうでもないわ。私の目算だと、あと50メートル分、ギリギリで届かない。
Despair filled Sojiro's eyes. Aoko lifted a hand to her long hair and, with a magically charged fingertip, clipped a clean tuft of it.
足りない分は努力と根性ってね。
Elbow grease.
あなたはできるだけ高いところまで逃げて。頃合いを見て合図を出すから。そうしたらこれを空に放ってくれる？しずきくんの役目はそれだけでいいから。
But based on where Aoko pointed her gaze, she did not really mean to leave it up to Sojiro to pick the highest place he could find. She was staring conspicuously at one of the amusement park's two main attractions. Main attractions? The roller coaster.
つまり青崎とは別行動をとってあの怪物たちに追われながら高いところに逃げ込めと。
そういうこと。ほら、あのうねうね動き出してるコースターのレールとかよくない？
You know, that smug look on your face is is pretty sus if you ask me. You were making him, bro. He can't pull fucking Spider-Man or whatever shit he can do in Assassin's Creed or Ass Creed. There were two demons in this park. Her smile made even Sojiro want to respond that it was far from perfect.
疑いたくはないんだが、本当はあの子とグルで俺を遠回しに殺そうとしてるんじゃないか。
Oh, you're pulling this whole question with the being suspect, aren't you?
あら、私に殺されるのならいいんでしょ？
Oh God.
人の出現を悪用するのは良くないと思う。
Sojiro hung his head. This was not sane. If he did as she said, he would die from exhaustion before Kitsy even had a chance to eat his ass.
私だって鬼じゃないわ。ほら、こっち向いて。おまじないかけてあげる。
Huh? It was the lightest of touches. Close enough for their breath and skin to come in contact.
Oh.
This feels a little too awkward in these parts. Zaki, he finished with a hushed voice. For one of them, this was a rather mundane magecraft. For the other, it was a head-spinning, intimate ambush.
軽く、弱く、うまく、早く。
Be light and frail, mumble and fast.
チクタク、チクタク。急げや急げ。
The weight of the air to tremble one's breast, light lags behind while shadows pull ahead. words that could not be produced by a normal larynx, whatever you call it, carrying a particular weight to them, reverberated against his eardrums. If words were given colors, these would have been the color of her name, blue. Sojiro's exhausted body and burning blood gently cooled.
飛ぶ、泳ぐ、駆け抜ける。
A bird in the sky, a fish in the sea, you in the
チク
distance.
タクチクタク。汽笛を鳴らせ。
Stuffed doubt and anxiety in the sack begin the journey at dawn.
星はいつでも北の空。どこまでも、いつまでも。
A shining star falls into your heart. In reality, it took but a few seconds. But the sudden contact had felt a little longer.
よし、暗示成功。成功したはず。ここまで手応えがあったの初めてだし。アリスの小言もたまには役に立つじゃない。
A very merry Aoko stood aside a very confused Sojiro. Damn. Look, even I feel confused as he is. Is this like some way to... Is this some sort of a way to give him a raise of morale? After he asked what the heck had occurred, she responded.
簡単な暗示よ。一時的に恐怖心を消しておいたから、高いところに登っても平気なはず。
Okay, so I'm somewhat right about the morale part.
あの手の作業で一番足を引っ張るのは動揺でしょ。恐怖も何も感じなければ、地上何メートルだろうと平均台とそう変わらないってわけ。
Okay. He seemed to get it. It actually all sounded like Greek to Sojiro, but he accepted it as an explanation for her strange actions.